Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time. It is a Monday edition and a weird time edition and a free edition. So shout out to everybody who is joining the old Crunch Time that is not usually here. Happy to have you. We're going to talk some weather. We're going to talk some DK, which locks soon. And we're going to talk some Fanduel, which locks in like 7 hours or something. And we got a couple baseball pros to help us out. One, we got Dave Pop. Cheese is good. What up, Cheese?
Hey, yeah, what a weird day.
What's happening?
It's strange with the times, it's strange with the slate, it's strange with the weather. It's strange, but we'll figure something out.
That's the game plan. We got Cards as well. Cards, how are you?
Hey, what's up? Doing good. Yeah, fun little Monday here. Only 5 games and plenty of time to get through everything. And yeah, it should be fun today.
Okay, and you do say plenty of time to get through everything, but we do have DK lock here coming up shortly, correct? So
Yeah,
the
25 minutes.
Oh, we go what?
About 25 minutes.
Oh, that's plenty. That's tons. That's oodles of time. All right, we're fine. But the plan is we are going to focus here on DK, and then once we get past that, we'll talk some FanDuel. We'll take some questions. Is that the game plan?
Yes, it is.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And it's one of those days where I am important, which are the worst days. I hate those days. But it is one of those days because there's weather concerns in not one but 2 spots. And geez, I think the lesser concern is a concern for you because you want pitchers in Cleveland, right?
Yeah, there's 4 good pitchers on this slate, and one of them's in Cleveland, one of them's in Chicago. So yeah, why don't you just start off with that and tell us, we do need to decide in 25 minutes if we're playing Louis Castillo or not. We have more time for Freddie Peralta, but yeah, they're both very relevant.
Okay. Bottom line in Cleveland is that in cash, I don't think you should play pitchers. It's going to rain in Cleveland, and it's going to rain pretty good. I am not 100% certain if it's going to rain hard enough for them to stop play or if it's going to rain hard enough for them to just fight through it and deal with it. I don't know, but it's going to rain pretty good. It's going to be right on the borderline there. If I were playing cash, I don't think I would risk it. There's certainly a chance for a delay, and it would be a relatively early delay. It'd be early enough so you wouldn't want to play, a stud pitcher and, pay a bunch of money and not get your innings, because I think that could really happen. If it's tournaments and you want to take a shot on them and hope that they just play through the rain, or that the segment of the line that goes over Cleveland is light enough that it's not a big deal, okay, that could happen for sure. So sure, tournaments, you're looking for an outcome that could happen. And I think they could avoid a delay, but I think it's probably more likely to get one. And because of that, I don't think you should play it in cash. Geez, you made a face.
Yeah. I really like Louis Castillo. And certainly in, these huge field tournaments, I'm still going to play him.
Yeah.
I'm fine. You don't need to play him in cash anyway. Like I'm debating with, if you're playing a single entry tournament, a 3 max entry, where I do like Castillo. I don't know. I don't really like him that much more. So I might move out of a few shares of him in some of those.
Okay. All right. Cards, got any Castillo? What are your plans?
Yeah, it's tough because he is going to be the lowest owned of, what you want to call the big 4 pitchers tonight, particularly if there is major concern about the weather. And his strikeout prop's pretty healthy, 6.5. And, the matchup is good against the current state of the Cleveland lineup. He's a pretty big favorite despite pitching on the road. So I think, the top heavy tournaments, you keep some exposure to them. Cash games, though, it's not necessary with there being some element of risk there. So I think I'd be on him in GPPs, maybe a little less. You wouldn't want to put him in 100% of your lineups if you're building 20 lineups or something like that. But it is intriguing. He does have a ceiling to match anybody else on the slate if everything breaks his way.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I think the rain probably starts there in a little bit over an hour and then kind of gets heavier to the point where I think there's a decent chance of a delay, and then clears out, probably rains for 30 minutes or so. But then you got to.
It's weird because twice in the last 4 days, they've late started that when it didn't even really need to late start. You would think here when they do need to late start, maybe they should.
Right.
Like, it was like, I remember twice really, we weren't even thinking it was going to rain at all. And they were like, it might rain a little. Let's wait.
Yeah. They pulled they did the last 2 late starts in Cleveland, for what it's worth, were for rain that moved in before the game. So just like interrupted warm up type thing. But hey, bottom line, I don't think it's the safe move, but I could certainly envision a scenario where it plays in Cleveland without a delay. So if you want to keep in GPPs, go for it. Next up is Chicago. All day, people have been asking me what's going to happen in Chicago. And the bottom line is, I don't know yet. Once we get closer to lock and once things are popping on radar and I can see how the storm is progressing, I'll have a pretty good idea. And I think before first pitch, I'll have a pretty good idea of how it looks. But this far out, I don't know. And because of that, if you have to lock it into cash now for DraftKings and there's no pivots and there's nothing you can do, then that seems dicey. But if there's something where you can put the guys in now and then pivot off them later, if it looks especially ugly, or switch back to them if it looks especially good, then I think that makes sense. But I will certainly not call it safe. I likely think it's a late start and play, but there's certainly a way that it could get postponed. So
your good news there is, while you would end up maybe leaving a little salary, which is fine on this slate, there are pivots for everything. Like if you're playing Freddie Peralta, you can pivot to Giolito and or Musgrove, whichever one you don't already have. So you're fine. And then obviously there's still 3 games of bats to pivot to. So like, I don't think you need to stress about it until we find out closer to lock. Like if you fade Castillo because of the weather, and then we get 10 minutes before the Cubs game and they cancel it, or you say, I don't play them, then you just end up with Giolito and Musgrove. And that's totally fine. Like those are arguably the 2 best pitchers anyway. I mean, it's close between all 4 of these guys.
Okay, great. Let's talk about some of the stacks that we want to do. Let's talk about some of the plays we want to do. But first, did you guys know that the RotoGrinders Fanduel single entry series still ongoing? So make sure you're signed up for that. Also, if you sign up for RotoGrinders Premium, you get this wonderful show every single day, 7 days a week, with a ton of other stuff. There's just literally content for everything. You get the combo or individual sport, you get $10 off. And if you get the individual sport, it's already really cheap. And if you get $10 off, it's like basically free. It's not actually free, but it's cheap. So go ahead, sign up if you haven't tried it out. With that said, like, subscribe, and cards. Let's talk about your favorite stacks.
Yeah, only 5 games, so not a lot to choose from tonight. And we've got 4 good pitchers, so that really leaves you with 6 offenses. I'm not huge on the Padres against a pitcher that's been, fairly decent. So that takes you down another offense. And that basically leaves the White Sox, the Brewers, the Yankees as the top teams. And maybe you can throw Cincinnati in that mix as well. There's just really not a whole lot tonight. I mean, the Brewers, the Yankees, and the White Sox are probably going to get a good majority of the ownership. And I would, presume that the Yankees are definitely going to be the team that's the chalkiest tonight. And really, by definition, anything else is going to be off the board a bit. I don't mind the Royals if you're looking for a, more under the radar team. But the Yankees are definitely going to be chalky, with the Brewers and White Sox not far behind. I mean, assuming the rain holds off in Chicago, I think we've got, pretty good hitting weather there. With the, I can tell that it's pretty humid today, and it's been warmer lately. So the Brewers are probably my number 2 behind the Yankees, then the White Sox.
Okay, excellent. Cheese, favorite stacks?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious where the ownership is going to land. The one team I would say my favorite stack, because of how I'm predicting ownership, would be the Padres. They should be reasonably far behind the Yankees and the White Sox and the Brewers and the Reds. So I would call that my top stack when considering ownership.
Okay, real quick, a couple people asked, and I didn't see this. Hey, are bats okay in Cleveland? And the answer is yes. The only thing I'm worried about in Cleveland really is, are they going to have to delay for a heavier batch of rain? But I do think that they'll be able to get the game in Cleveland. So I'm not overly concerned with that.
If they delay it for the whatever's currently on the radar, like how long of a delay are we looking at?
Be long. If they late start it, it would
No. Let's say they play 3 or 4 innings and then have a delay. Like how long before it stops raining at that point?
I think it would rain for 30 to 45 minutes.
So you're probably looking at an hour-ish delay.
Yeah. Yeah,
which
I think
isn't.
so.
Yeah, that's not out of the ordinary. I mean, you're not going to see a game called in the middle of the game for that amount of time.
Right. Okay, let's talk about some of these positional players, and we get to start at the catcher position. Cheese, what do you like?
So you're going to hear a lot of the same sort of teams here. Although at catcher, the one guy who kind of is like the best hitter on the slate is Salvador Perez. And Cards already kind of mentioned the Royals are maybe the sneaky-ish stack. I do like Perez. Assuming that Milwaukee game plays, I think Narvaez is the best for his price. Tyler Stevenson is a wonderful play. I think it's pretty reasonable to pay up at catcher, at least pay up. I mean, like Narvaez at 3,800 isn't really paying up, but I think that's your best route. If you need to go cheap, which is also fine, Sebi Zavala, I think, is just one of those guys that's fine to always play because he might be able to hit a home run if he's not striking out. Barnhart and Caratini are fine with me as well.
All right, Cards.
Yeah, and we've got Higashioka as the highest owned catcher. I believe that'll be the case with him hitting ninth. I suppose if weather becomes an issue in Chicago, then maybe. But Narvaez at 3,800 on DK hitting cleanup makes the most sense to me. Perez, particularly in your Royal stacks, is fine, and then Stevenson would be my next. So I like those three guys. Higashioka is probably the guy I'll sit out on with him hitting ninth. And still carrying some ownership simply because he's part of that Yankee lineup. So I like the other three guys a little better. Otherwise, not much to add at catcher tonight.
Okay, take us to first base, Cards.
Yeah, so Luke Voit is back for the Yankees. Anthony Rizzo has COVID, so he is out, and Voit was back in the lineup, and he's going to be popular right off the bat. That's the fun of DFS, to get back in the lineup. And boom, you're popular again.
Right. You got the cheap price, but also the rust question marks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since he's faced major league pitching consistently, but I mean, it's not like he forgot how to hit. This was a guy that had a good start to the year, played well last year, faded a bit, maybe right before they got Rizzo, but he's 3K on FanDuel. He's 3,700 on DK, so that makes him one of the better values. I like him maybe just a bit more than Rowdy Tellez, but Tellez would be the other kind of cheap guy. Carlos Santana is not very expensive. I mean, this is a night where you can go cheap at first base on DraftKings. Joey Votto is, he's really expensive now. He is lefty tonight, but that's going to keep his ownership down a bit. I just don't think it's necessary to pay 5,800 at first base in cash games tonight. I think Escobar at 5K is fine for the Brewers, so he would probably be my other choice, him or Abreu as more of a contrarian option. But I like going fairly cheap with Voit or Tellez or Santana, one of those three guys at first base tonight.
All right, Cheese.
Yeah, like I do love like Votto and Abreu, but you don't have to spend that. I think I would kind of rather spend elsewhere. I like Tellez at his salary the best, and agree Voit and Santana are too cheap. So it's really just, do you have money or do you not have money? In general, I really like the Reds lefties because people are going to see, it's lefty for one at bat, and then it's righty lefty the rest of the game. So I do like Votto, but Tellez would be my favorite value.
All right. Real quick, Achilles says, Cheese, who's your preferred SP2 for cash? Then we'll move on to second base.
So if you're planning right now, I don't think you can do anything other than Giolito Musgrove. Like, don't play a guy in the rain. There's 4 good pitchers. Play the 2 where it's not raining. So I would go Musgrove, Giolito.
Okay, great. Second base.
Not great. We just got a Yankees lineup with no Odor, which is probably not even a bad thing. He won't strike out 4 times. But like, you're paying up for guys like India or LeMahieu, which is kind of sure, but I don't know. Colton Wong, probably a very good cash game play if that game is looking better weather-wise. Whit Merrifield is just too cheap for who he is. I do like him at 35. And then so I was just going to look at that. We got a question on it. So I guess Velasquez is
Stone Man.
So basically, I've been playing Isan Diaz as the Stone Min guy, 2K. I prefer Diaz in tournaments still. I'm wanting to play a little against Musgrove. In cash games, if you had to punt it, I would definitely play the guy on the Yankees, Velasquez, ahead of Isan Diaz. I like Cronenworth a pretty good bit as well.
Cards second.
Yeah, I think Cronenworth makes sense. I believe we don't have the Padres lineup yet, but make sure he's in there. But he's been hitting cleanup a lot lately. So at 4K on DraftKings, he makes sense. Wong at 3,600 leading off. Could get 5 at bats on the road tonight in good hitting conditions. He would be my other, if you're looking for a lighter hitting guy as opposed to Cesar Hernandez. I think I prefer Wong a little bit. India is fine if you're on Cincinnati. So that's about it for second base.
Take us to third.
All right. So this is interesting because third base is so thin for options tonight that you're just going to see a lot of people. We got the salary to pay for Jose Ramirez, so let's just jam him in, even though he's facing one of the better pitchers on the slate. I think Ramirez is an interesting tournament fade that you could go with, Moncada or Machado or Escobar's third base eligible on DraftKings. You could even, if you're not on Peralta, Patrick Wisdom in a GPP. I'm not doing that, but that's something that you could consider as well. So I don't know. Ramirez is great. Don't get me wrong, but at very high ownership against a good pitcher, probably off him in tournaments tonight. You can certainly play him in cash and just play for the block more than anything, but I like the pivots at GPPs tonight.
Okay. Just a quick little update. I'm just looking at Cleveland radar. It's going to start raining within an hour. It's going to be light. Nothing's changed. It's going to be light rain an hour from now, 90 minutes from now. It's not going to be light rain. Someone just asked again if bats are fine. I think bats are going to be okay, but it's just, are they going to stop play for this rain that's moving in? I don't know. I don't know if it's heavy enough for them to stop play or not, but it's going to rain. I know that. We got 8 minutes left, and we did just get a lineup in.
Padres looks exactly like what we had projected. So
yeah,
fantastic.
All right, Cheese.
Yeah. So I love Machado, Escobar, and Moncada. If I were making 20 lineups, I would just have those 3 guys, and that would be it. By all means, play Jose Ramirez because he's Jose Ramirez. But this is not the position I'm crazy about going cheap, just because of those guys.
Take us to short.
Boy, it dries out quickly here. So Tim Anderson is crazy expensive on DK. And while he is the best shortstop, and even Willie Adames is, I would say, crazy expensive. They're the 2 best, but those are just weird prices for those guys. So I much prefer Cronenworth as a shortstop. I'm fine with Kyle Farmer, 3,900. I think you can punt this if you want to. So we've got, let me refresh this. I guess Velasquez is second and short on DraftKings.
That's what I was about to say.
He's
any interest there?
Yeah, I think I don't know that you need to punt both shortstop and second all the way down. But he's totally viable. Kind of a decent speed guy. If you can't get up to Cronenworth or Farmer, then I would just punt it all the way down.
Okay. All right. Cards, what are you doing at short?
Yeah, I mean, a thin pool of options. Obviously, the multi-position eligibility on DraftKings helps a few of those guys because you can play Cronenworth there. She's pretty well covered it. You've got Nicky Lopez, our best friend from last week, who beat the Cardinals yesterday with a hit in the 9th. We've got him at 7% ownership right now. I don't think I've ever seen him at 7% simply because he's hitting second tonight. I don't love Ahmed Rosario. Kyle Farmer is fine because the price tag's cheap. But yeah, Cronenworth or Anderson, you can just spend up here and take the path of least resistance. But I do like Willie Adames a good bit in tournaments.
Take us to the outfield.
All right. So this is again where you can probably maneuver your lineup around. Castellanos, for some reason, is still really cheap on DraftKings. He's 4K. I think he's been there the last week. And that lineup for the Reds, I mean, it's clicking right now. Of course, it helps that they played the Pirates over the weekend. But this is a team that's rolling. As of yesterday, I didn't look today, but as of yesterday, they led the league in team weighted on base over the last 30 days. So Castellanos would probably be my first priority on a points per dollar basis on DraftKings at 4,000. Certainly like the Yankees guys. I mean, Judge and Stanton Those three guys will probably be the chalkiest outfielders tonight. Throw Gallo in that mix as well. And Eloy Jimenez, those are your spend ups that are going to be pretty popular. If you are on any of the Cincinnati bats, like Miles Straw and Harold Ramirez aren't great players, but they're hitting first and fifth, and they're both 2,200 on DK. So I get it. If you need a punt play in there, or Benintendi for Kansas City, or Bradley Zimmer. I mean, you got 3 or 4 guys there that are really cheap. That maybe you can plug one of them in to make the rest of your lineup work. But I'm not crazy on Cleveland, but I do think you can take maybe one of their outfielders as a guy to round out your roster. Brett Gardner is leading off for the Yankees tonight. Again, not a huge fan of him, but they are slated to score, close to 6 runs. So I get it if you want to go there. But I think you got to prioritize maybe 2 of the spends here.
Cheese, what are you doing in the outfield?
Yeah, so I want to kind of highlight something what Cards was just talking about. Almost any way you want to build your lineups, all of these secondary teams, like teams 5 through 10 on this slate, have 2 or 3 essentially minimum salary bats that make it pretty easy to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So like you can stack the Reds or the Yankees with 2 aces and then go with, Straw, Ramirez, Zimmer for Cleveland, or go with Ortega and Schwindel for the Cubs, or go with Cave and Larnach for the Twins, go with O'Hearn and Benintendi and Lopez, go with Isan Diaz and Brinson. Every team, every bad team that aren't that bad have 2 guys who are essentially minimum salary, if not 3. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of that's the way I'm preferring to build tonight, is get one just loaded team with 6 or 7 players that are fantastic, and then just 2K random punts that really aren't like the worst plays in the world already.
And there's some correlation because they're same team.
Yeah, because you can pair them together.
Sure. Okay. Any specific preference?
In the outfield, I think I like the Royals. I like O'Hearn down at 2,300 and Michael Taylor at 21. And I kind of like the Cave Larnach for the Twins at 25 and 2K.
Great. Quick favorite guy or the player you have the most exposure to, or your home run call. Cheese, you get to go first.
Well, that was a lot of questions in one right there.
Hopefully that's all the same.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll go Jesse Winker for all of the above.
Okay. Cards, you got a guy?
I will go with Castellanos. Same team, different player.
I like it. Let's take a few of these questions before lock. I have no light bulb that, oh, I know what's going to happen now. I don't. Hopefully I will before Chicago, and that's not a promise. Arlo says, Velasquez shortstop eligible. We knew that. Achilles, if rain is no issue on DK Cash, Cheese, you want Peralta, Cronenworth, Robert, or Giolito, Farmer, Yelich?
Peralta, Cronenworth, Robert.
Cards, DK Cash, Casty, probably that guy, Stanton, or Jimenez?
Casty.
Yeah. Second base, about to lock LeMahieu or lock India now?
I would play India.
NBA Live, DK Cash. This was actually specifically for Cheese. Cronenworth, Straw, or Voit Gardner?
Cronenworth, Straw.
Okay. Achilles says, Roth, what is the rain issue for Chicago? There's a tornado watch for starters.
That's even worse than rain.
Yeah, it's not a good start. There's going to be some really nasty storms in Chicago tonight. They're probably going to be there right around first pitch, and they're probably going to hang out for 90 minutes or so. I think the likely outcome is going to be a late start and play, but I don't know. I need to look at radar when we get closer to the game to truly have any idea. And even then I might not know. But right now I don't know. And that's why just for cash, hopefully you can punt that decision and figure it out 2 hours from now. Coming up on lock, and we got all those questions. Do we just redo everything we did and then go through it for FanDuel now? Is that the game plan?
I mean, I think we can just talk about what's different, which isn't a whole lot. You're just missing one game of bats. I mean,
you're
the
only
plays are
getting one pitcher for starters,
yeah,
so
the plays are essentially the same. I think we can just kind of hang around for questions and talk a little bit. But if we go through position by position, it's going to be the same.
Okay, well then we won't do that.
Stuff.
let's start with what we're gonna do at pitcher here. Is there still just now 3 good pitchers?
Yeah,
Is
exactly.
Correct.
So it's 3 instead of 4.
Okay.
And it's the same pricing structure. Like Musgrove's the cheapest, but you can really afford any of them. Musgrove will be the chalk. If that Cubs game clears up, I prefer Peralta in tournaments. But if you're just like, who's probably going to be the best points per dollar, just it's Musgrove. But I don't love him as chalk in tournaments when there's other good pitchers.
Right. And to be clear, the Chicago game is not going to clear up. It's
right. If you say, I think there's a 50% chance it plays, I'm still using Peralta.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow.
So like if they late start, and it's still going to only be there for 90 minutes, I'm probably going to think, they're going to try to play this.
Yeah, agreed. If, we look at things and the Storms are moving in there prior to first pitch and it looks like they'll be clearing out shortly thereafter, that'd be great. But I just, until it's on radar, I can't.
Yeah, I just tell you, this slate has the feel of the most glorious of all situations, which is everyone fades a fantastic game, if not 2, because of weather, and then they just play, and you have a game that would have been the second highest owned pitcher and maybe the highest owned offense, and nobody plays it. That's fantastic. And if I play it and it gets rained out, I was probably going to lose anyway.
Right. Okay.
That's not the way to do it. If you play it and it gets rained out, it's Roth's fault.
That's what I was going to say.
That's true. On Twitter, it is Roth's fault. In real life, I was going to lose anyway.
Yeah. All right. So guys, if you have any questions, bring them out. I kind of actually forgot that we've got YouTube going on. Hey, if you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe. And in the meantime, I will pull it up and see if there's any questions over there. If you got YouTube, get questions. If you're in our wonderful Discord, you can fire away with some questions as well. But pulling that up right now. We'll start with Eric. He says on the 3-game or maybe 2-game 8-10 only slate.
Wow.
How many batters would you play against your pitcher? That is a very specific question, and I don't know if you're prepared for that.
Well, let me look
I mean,
at
if it's a 3-game, it's probably a.
So it's a different question if it's 3 games versus if it's
probably
2.
a 2-game slate. If it's 8-10 only, it would be.
Well, it includes the Cubs game plus the Royals plus the Twins. So
yeah, I mean, I usually don't play hitters against my pitcher, maybe 1 at most. If it's a 2-game slate, you can get away with a couple, but otherwise probably 1. But like if your pitcher is Giolito or Peralta, like you probably don't want to play a ton of bats against those guys anyway. So absent all the information of exactly how many games or if it includes the 10 o'clock game or what, but
it doesn't.
He was saying it's 3 games, but because of the potential for Chicago.
Yeah, it's the Chicago, the KC, and the Minnesota game.
Yeah,
right. So if we assume the Cubs game gets rained out, you're down to 2 games. Like your pitcher, most pitcher people is probably using Giolito at pitcher. Like, you really want to use any of the Twins bats anyway? Probably not. I think you probably go with the Yankees, the Royals, and the White Sox, who are all fine. It limits your ceiling if you're rooting for a home run by a guy against your own pitcher. So, like 1 at most.
Yeah. All right. I'm honestly pretty interested to see what they do here in Cleveland. This is one of those where if the rain moved in before first pitch, there's no way they start the game in the rain that's coming. But
they started it.
Right. Once they start a game dry, they are much more patient and deal with rain better. But if this had happened an hour earlier, they would not be starting that game. So we'll see if they delay for it or not. I don't know.
Will be interesting.
Yep. Geez, you want them to just.
I just want them to keep playing. Like I used way more Castillo than I would have if I hadn't been on this show, quite honestly. Like I would have redone my builds and gone from 40% Castillo to 15. But as it is, I have 40. So I'll just hope they play.
Okay, great.
Or that he just piles up so many points in a couple innings, doesn't matter.
Right. And you've got a bit before the heavy stuff comes. So that's possible. Sir Tan says, if I wanted to rebuild my lineups to exclude the Cubs game, is there a way to keep stack settings enabled and rebuild? That is a question for someone who is a super user of Lineup HQ.
Cards, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you if you upload your CSV into our rebuild late swap tool, there's a checkbox. I don't have one handy, but so it's not showing me all the options, but there's a checkbox that says relax build settings, and it does that by default to try to help you get lineups. If you uncheck that, it should keep your settings intact to try to keep those stacks. I think it works pretty well, but I haven't used it in a while.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the trick of that, if you don't use relax build settings, sometimes you won't get enough lineups, and you'll have to go in and like change your, like if you've got guys set at a maximum percentage, you might have to bump a bunch of them up. Otherwise, if you don't relax it, you won't have enough lineups. But if you do use that relaxed one, then you can't use the stacks. So just play around with that.
Interesting. Okay, good answers. Jay West says, hey guys, Tyon over Musgrove. JT has been quite consistent as of late.
I mean, I don't dislike him, and he has been better. I don't know. It's hard to see a ceiling with him. I mean, the 10Ks in the last game was an outlier. You look before that, 5, 4, 3, 4, did have another 9, and 4, 6, 5, 3, 5. So he's got like 2 games all year above 6. One came against Seattle, who strikes out a lot. One came against Baltimore his last time out. I don't think he's going to pile up the Ks against Kansas City. And Musgrove's spin rate has been fine. I mean, he's facing the Marlins. The Marlins have a 2.8 run implied total. So it's still Musgrove for me, but I get the logic at, much lower ownership. But you look at the K props, Musgrove's at 7.5, Tyon's at 4.5. So there's just not a big ceiling there.
Okay. Jay says Fanduel single entry, bottom of the order Yankees with San Diego, or higher price Yankees with a Miami stack.
Well, so that's, what's your feel on Musgrove personally? The more likely, like if we play this slate 1,000 times, I think the San Diego stack with the bottom of New York will win more often. That being said, I like the higher price Yankees with the Miami stack. It will hit less often. When it does, you might win the tournament more often.
Because of that L word.
Leverage.
Yeah. Oh, that's leverage.
Leverage, baby.
Because Musgrove's going to be really popular.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care. That's where I don't think that's the issue. I don't care how Musgrove is owned. I guess the reason some people aren't playing Miami is because it's not because Musgrove's owned. It's because it's Musgrove. It's kind of the same thing. Semantics. I just think Miami could score. Bottom line, I don't care. If Musgrove was 0% owned, I would still like a Miami stack.
Yeah.
But yes, obviously it's the L word.
It's leverage.
Obviously it's the L word.
I mean, it helps.
Lopez, the L word, Lopez.
If he's 50% owned and Miami goes off, you got 50% dead
sure.
lineups as well. So it certainly
Except
doesn't hurt.
The reason I don't like that logic, and it's correct, is that if you're fading Musgrove, you're fading Musgrove anyway. You can still fade Musgrove and play the San Diego stack at the bottom of New York, which is the same leverage.
Sure.
But anyway,
wow, we got deep on the leverage there. Now I understand the reasoning for hatred of the phrase. I finally, I see where you're coming from now.
Thank you.
I mean, it gets used in different contexts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone uses it differently. And there are ways that are definitely correct to use it. And the ways that are definitely wrong to use it just grate on my nerves so much.
Yeah, they do.
But to be fair, really, this is one of the ones it's okay to use it. Miami against Musgrove does give you leverage. Like it absolutely does.
Showboat King says, hey, glad I accidentally started watching what I thought would be Grinders Live, but instead it was crunch time so that I could panic button a few lineups in. Yeah, those weird start times. So glad you jumped in, Showboat, and welcome. Glad you got a couple lineups in there. Jay Sam says, hey, cheese cards, we're ready for Nicky Lopez to break the slate. You boys were pooping on Nicky Lopez. And
he got a whole single. It was just the single at the right time.
Yeah. Game winning single.
It was funny. Like I saw it coming a mile away because they had that 2-hour rain delay, and there were guys on second and third, and Lopez was coming up second that inning. Like for 2 hours, I was sitting there going, we're getting screwed on this thing. Like you knew it was going. That's funny. Wonderful. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
And really, that was it.
It
was
didn't make me laugh because it was against the Cardinals, but otherwise it was
1 for 4 with a single.
Right.
But it's the game-winning single. I mean, that's his thing.
Excellent.
Clutch. He's got the clutch gene.
The clutch gene. There you go.
He always comes through in the clutch.
There it is. Let's see. Catching up. I forgot to jump over to the YouTube chat as well, so I'm making sure everything's good there. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're pretty good there. Double check here. Okay, let's go to New York Giant fan who says, can someone smarter than me explain how the night slate does not include the San Diego Miami game? That is odd.
Yeah, he is right. Normally they would call that the turbo. For some reason they call, like, when it's kind of a middle of the night, like, but not everything late, they call it turbo. I think they just didn't want as many words. The wording of slates amuses me just in general anyway. Like, I love when FanDuel has the very early only, the early afternoon only. It's like, come on. But yes, theoretically, I think DraftKings would normally have called that a turbo slate.
Yeah.
So no, we cannot agree
that as much as we love DraftKings, and I almost exclusively play on DraftKings, what are they doing? Why do they include this game? They moved everybody's start time up. They messed up everybody's day. Whereas they could have just let everybody start an hour early and have.
Except, to be fair to them, in the past, sites have gotten yelled at for making slates too small by pushing it back for this exact same thing. Like, they would have gotten hate for, hey, you could have had a 5-game slate. Why do you have a 4? Like, really, they're in such a can't win situation because of the start times. I don't honestly blame them.
All right, I do. That's fine. Am I adorable?
I was shocked, since I write the articles on the weekends and on Saturday, the Saturday slates are usually all over the place. And so we've gotten to this pattern on Saturdays of there's usually a couple of games at 1, and then there's usually like 4 or 5 games at 4. Sometimes there's a random game at 5.
It's terrible. I hate it.
It's awful. And you can always, like clockwork, bank on DraftKings, including usually all of the games.
Yep.
And then FanDuel will split up the 6 games into 3 different slates. And it drives me nuts because it's like, okay, here's the 2 games at 2 o'clock and here's the 2 games at 3 o'clock, but they're all on the same slate on DraftKings. So you got to try to find a way to make, to make it sound reasonable when you're talking about it. And last Saturday, there was 1 game at 1 and 1 game at 2 and 2 games at, 4. And I was like, oh my goodness, what are they going to do with these slates? And DraftKings and FanDuel both had like a 5-game early slate with all the games. And I almost fell out of my chair, particularly with FanDuel doing it that way because they never do. So I was happy about that for one Saturday. But yeah, it did kind of surprise me. Like, Cheese is right. They're going to get damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But I was kind of surprised that they included that game tonight.
No, those weekend slates on Saturday when it's like there's a game every hour. And it's my weekend. I'm supposed to be with my family, and just every hour when it's weather, every game, just like all day, just staring at my phone all day. It's brutal. But
there was a few Saturdays where it was bad. Like, there was a lot of weather issues too.
So obnoxious. Anyways, back to the questions here. BHB says, hey, Roth, would there be any potential for a mid-inning delay in Chicago, or would it just be a late start? I guess, sure. I don't yet know what's going to happen in Chicago. Like, these are thunderstorms. They're going to pop up. They're going to be nasty. They're going to be vicious. But I don't know where they're going to be at this point. I don't think it's very likely based on what forecast models are showing that we get a mid-inning delay. I think it's more likely a late start, but sure, it's possible. Also, for what it's worth right now, there's a tornado that is moving towards the ballpark. So that's always fun. But I'm just follow me on Twitter at Kevin Roth WX if you don't already. I will update that game. Anything I do now, we just need to look at it 20 minutes before first pitch.
Yeah, let's all go eat dinner and then we'll come back.
Final question here. Chinatown says, does anyone think of the Alanis song "Thank You India" in their head every time India hits a dong? What if it's a misty dong? Do you know this? Cards, do you know the song? Because Cheese certainly does.
Cards loves Alanis Morissette. Don't pretend like you don't.
I mean, I probably know the song, but yeah, okay, I know the song, but no, it does not pop into my head every time Jonathan India bats.
Okay, well, it will now.
It's not going to be in my head as much as my kids were randomly playing this song called "It's Raining Tacos" last week.
That
Made me
sounds good.
really hungry, but apparently it's like 6 years old. I don't know, but it was raining tacos for a while.
That sounds wonderful. Sadly, it will be raining other things here in Chicago, so I will update you, guys. Always a wonderful time. Appreciate you. So if you don't have RotoGrinders Premium, what are you doing? You get to hang out with us all the time. So for Cards, for Cheese, for Devin, always working hard behind the scenes, guys. We appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.